Hello everyone and welcome back to another math video. Today we're going to be looking at how do you write exponential functions when given a graph or a table, so similar to these problems that you see up on the screen here. Just a reminder, this is the speedrun version where we go pretty quickly. If you'd like the normal version of the lesson, I will link that in the description below. All right, your Ricasso Recap starts now. In 30 seconds or less, here's what you need to know before you start this lesson. Firstly, you should already know how to graph points on a coordinate plane. Secondly, you should know how exponents work. And lastly, you should know how to solve equations. If you want refreshers on any of these three topics, I will link videos in the description below. Please go watch those before you start this lesson. All right, new lesson starts now. Here we go. So up on your screen, on the left, I've given you a graph, and on the right, I've given you a table, and I've given you the answers, okay? So, this is the answer, and this is the answer for this problem. And what I'd like you to do is to pause your video and see if you can figure out, just by looking at the picture, the table, can you figure out how I came up with these answers? So if you want to pause the video, I'll give you a second to think. All right, now that you've had some time to think, maybe you came up with a few observations here. Firstly, you will notice there are some similarities. For example, all of them have a y equals, then they have a number here, parentheses, a number here, parentheses, and an x in the corner, okay, in the exponent. This is why they're called exponential functions, because there's an x there. Now, we're going to call this number here a. Okay, that's an ugly a. Let's try that again. And we're going to call this number here b. Now, a, you may have figured out, is the y-intercept. Okay, so y-intercept is 3 and 3. Here the y-intercept is -3, so that's why this is -3. So a, the number in front of the parentheses, is always the y-intercept. Always, 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 always. Now b is the growth rate, or the growth or decay rate. And to calculate this, it's a little bit more complicated. So let's look at this. I'm going to start with the graph on the left. My suggestion would be to set up a table like this, x and y, and pick 2 points that are close to each other. So for example, let's do 0 and 3. And then let's use, how about this point right here, which is 1 and 15. Okay, 2 things to note here. Number 1, the x's are going up from left to right, and they go up by 1 number, right? 0 to 1 is just +1. So they're going up from left to right. That's important. And they go up only by 1. To get the b, what you do is you take the y value on the right, which is 15, and you divide it by its neighbor, by a y value on the left. So we do 15 divided by 3, which gives us 5. And this is how they come up with the growth rate. Okay, they divide the y number on the right divided by the y number on the left. For this problem over here, for the table, let's do it in blue so we don't mix up our answers here. You can pick any 2 numbers that are next to each other. So I don't know, let's pick these 2 numbers, right? You can pick any of them, but here we go. X and y, again, set up a table that looks like this because that makes it easier. -1, -21, and 0, -3. All right, our x's are going up from left to right, right? -1, then 0 is going up, getting bigger, and they are separated by only 1 number, right? So we're good to go. So we take the y value on the right, and we divide it by the y value on the left. So we're doing -3 divided by -21, which gives us 1/7. And this is how they come up with the b value. Okay, so b is the growth or decay rate. Growth or decay rate. Now for this problem, you'll notice that they do not give you the y-intercept. When they don't give you the y-intercept, you have to do a slightly different process. So let's set up our table like we did before. Let's calculate the growth rate here. Let's calculate b. So we're calculating b. So we need 2 points that are close to each other. Let's do 3, -1, and then let's do 4, -2. Our x's are going up, and they are separated by only one number, so we can use them. So now we do the right y divided by the left y, which is -2, divided by -1, which is 2. Now, remember we said this is sort of the general form, the formula for every answer in exponential form. We just found b, right? We just found that this is 2. So let's change this to a 2. We don't know what the y-intercept is because they don't tell us on the graph. So let's leave it as a. And now for y and x, for x and y, let's pick something from our table. For example, let's use 3 and -1. 3 and -1. This is our x number. This is our y number. So now we have -1 and 3. And now, at this line of work, we can solve this equation. This is -1 equals a. 2 to the third power is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. And then we just divide by 8 on both sides. Again, we should know how to solve these equations, and we get -1/8. So now we can write our final answer because we know that a is -1/8. We just found it. And remember, we found b at the beginning. b equals 2. And with these two numbers, we can write our equation. So now we have y equals -1/8, 2 to the x power, and this is the final answer. All right, so if they don't give you the y-intercept, you have to solve an equation to find it. All right, here's our cool clock for today, which means that it is time for you to practice what you just learned. Go ahead and pause the video and try these 2 problems on your own, and when you're ready, you can unpause the video and we'll check your answers. Okay, now that you've had time to work these problems, let's check your solutions. Okay, for the first problem, here is the work. They gave you the y-intercept on the table, which is always nice. So you should have gotten y equals 3 parentheses 5 parentheses to the x power. Okay, and for the second problem, here is the work. You should have gotten y equals -1/5 parentheses 1/5 close parentheses to the x power. You may have gotten, if you got here, 1/5 to the -2nd power. If you're not familiar with negative exponents, I would say just plug that into a calculator, and that gives you the 25. All right, that is it for today. I hope you all have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.